I'm amazed how often when I'm speaking with even my peers at my age, people don't consider their retirement, right? And I think how much more of a challenge that is for people in their late teens, early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s.
I know some people that are really going to have a hard time.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've always been saving up for retirement time. So I need to retire early so I can enjoy that, right? I don't want to work till I'm 60, man. I don't want to work till I'm 65. Like, I don't want to work tomorrow. So the sooner I can get out is a win. So yeah, I've always worked for my retirement, and I don't want to be an old man working broken.
We don't have enough construction industry workers to build the 3.5 million.
Who's going to train the next generation of construction workers?
Still has a lot more jobs than people willing to work them.
What can be done on an industry level to bring more new workers into careers in
We could need more than 500,000 additional construction workers on average just to build all the homes that are going to be needed.
Introducing the PeopleBuilt podcast with John Wheeler. Because the city we've built is nothing without the stories of the people who built it.
Good day, and welcome to another episode of the PeopleBuilt podcast. Today, I am joined by Dave Hunt, and I am super excited to talk to him today about two of my favorite topics as it relates to our industry, and that's the growth and development of a career from apprenticeship and starting to get older, and what that means for like our bodies, and a second topic about finances, how to prep for finances as a young age, and what does that look like in that kind of mid to like late halfway point in the career. And it's like to talk about the growth and development and the decisions that get made throughout our careers to set us up for long-term stability. Dave, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate you coming and talk about some of my favorite topics. Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you, John.
So, can I ask you how old you are?
47, 48. Yeah.
47, 48. Yep. How long have you been, and you're a plumber?
Yes.
How long have you been a plumber for?
I started when I was 23, so I'm on 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
How did you choose plumbing?
Actually, it was opportunity. Was in a job that I didn't like too much, and my buddy had started working for a company in Edmonton, and he said, "Oh, we're looking, so come on down." So I packed up a lunch and showed up to site with boots on, and boss gave me a little challenge. If you can do this, we'll take you back tomorrow. So I did what he did, cut some copper, right? You tape measure and cut it up, and did it all. And he said, "Okay, we'll come back tomorrow, and we'll have the paperwork for you." And congratulations, you're a plumber. So that was about it. Yeah, easy peasy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you what kind of experience did you get as an apprentice? Like in the kind of was it commercial, residential, and what kind of jobs were you doing to start training you?
I've always done the commercial, really, but I started with Master Mechanical in Edmonton. I'm doing residential. I'm really condos and stuff, so lots of packs, lots of not so much copper and pro press stuff. That's where I started.
What was some of your highlights? So 25 years ago, what was your apprenticeship like? What was it like to learn that?
It was different. Times have changed a lot. There wasn't the patience that we have to show kids these days. So I got yelled at a bit. But I was smart, really. Like I grew up in a manufacturing home, right? So I wasn't, I knew how to read a tape measure. I knew how to keep myself going. I knew how to use power tools. So I was an asset, I think, right away. So I didn't get stuck doing chipping floors and stuff very much, and was able to get kind of into the bread and butter of it pretty quickly. So
when you were looking at, so if you were different because you're good with your hands, you had grasp of tools already, right? What were some of the differentiators when you looked at some of the other apprentices, if you remember? Like kind of back in those, like kind of meant that you weren't the guy chipping floors all of a sudden.
It was new, so I didn't really understand it until I was a couple of years into it, and then you see other guys that are how come this guy's always chipping floors, or he's always on whole hog, or he's always doing cleanup and stuff. Where as a first or second year, I wasn't. I was pulling water lines or doing layouts already on my own. So it made me feel good, of course, but I didn't really question it because I didn't know the hierarchy. Really, I guess is a good way to put it. So I just took it and didn't say anything because I didn't want to be the guy chipping the floor or drilling out the hole. So just shut up, do my job, and do it as fast as I can.
And then what do you do now? What's your...
I'm field supervisor.
Yeah.
So watch all the work really in the commercial division. Watch guys, make sure stuff's getting installed properly, materials getting weighed correctly. Guys are on task, on focus, on schedule, and that's basically just my job.
How long did it take you to go from? Actually, how long did it take you to get your journeyman ticket? Like from kind of when you started to when you got your
3 years.
Holy crap!
Yeah, so I did like a first year, like a year, went first year, second year, third year, and then after third year I skipped a semester and did fourth year right away. But it was during the time when we're so busy, everybody just go, get to school, get your ticket. And so I was lucky that way. There was always work. I never had to worry about finding work. There was always lots to do, push you to go to school, go to school, pay money, or make more money, right? I've been a firm believer, it's not that you can't afford to go. You can't afford not to go, because the longer you don't go, you're just losing money, right? So when it comes to apprentices, and they say, I can't afford to go. Well, no, like $2 an hour over a year it adds up, right? So as hard as it is to pay for it now, you're going to pay for it later.
Yeah, like, for easy math, like I have, the math I like to do is, 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. Some people work more, some people work less, but that equates to 2,000 working hours a year.
Right.
$2 an hour?
Yep.
$4,000.
Right. You paid for your next year of school.
Yep. The government takes $1,500 of that. Yeah. Right. They're doing the $2,500 in your bank account. Yeah. Right. To go spend on like you say, your next semester of school.
Right.
How much of you going to school quickly and getting your journeyman ticket was you motivated to, was that your motivation or was that Master Mechanical pushing you?
No, that was me, because I don't like school. I didn't like doing it. So I just wanted to kind of get it over with, especially when it came to fourth year, because of the extra exams and stuff. And I just really wanted to retain as much as I could before I went back to school. I figured it would make life easier. And I had the opportunity. It was freezing cold winter, and I could do it. So I did.
How was the primary motivator, like just getting it over with, or was the primary motivator money?
Money too. I'd gotten married when I was a third year, so I'd stepson involved. So really it was family stuff. Needed to get it done. Didn't want to, and for myself, just get it over with. So, really didn't want to be in school, so get it over with, and the money factor, because I was a newly married man and starting a family. Want to buy a house, and all that fun stuff.
When did you buy a house? What year, do you remember?
2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Calgary or in Edmonton?
In Calgary. Yeah, I'd already moved here by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and for those of you who are for those people who don't know or weren't in Alberta at the time, but 2005, 6, 7. It was right after the 2000, October 2008.
Yeah,
those were booming years.
Yeah, my realtor made jokes that we probably bought the last house in Calgary for less than $200,000. So,
no kidding.
Yeah,
you bought a house for less than $200,000.
Yeah, just at that. Yeah, we got lucky and worked out. And the first house we looked at, it was really bad. We looked at 3 houses in one day.
Yeah,
and okay, we're just going to take this one, make this easy, and
Yeah, I think for a lot of people who might not know, but just Alberta was booming at that time. Mm-hmm. You could almost not put buildings up fast enough, right? And very similar to kind of mid to late 2022, where just all of a sudden, houses were tough to come by, right? And there was just absolutely this wrapping up in the market, right, of purchasing.
Yeah, when I left masters there, I left when I was in school, right, and my boss, journeyman, site supervisor, whatever, he came to me on my last day and said, man, you're coming back, right? You're going to come back to us, right? And, man, we need you back. And I never did go back, but, it was booming and they needed the work. And then you just know the guys are coming back.
Yeah. Do you remember what you were, how much money you were making in 2007?
Got no idea. Yeah, no idea. I know, yeah. I think I was still working for Masters, and I might have been making $15 an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As in journeyman?
No, this is a second year.
Okay.
Right, so I was quite... No, I guess, that's wrong. So I was a third year when I left. Yeah, so even then, like 15, 16, 17, they were like the McDonald's of plumbing companies, right? They didn't pay at all. So
Yeah.
When I was in school, I don't know, the teacher had asked what we were all making, and I kind of said what I was getting, and like everybody in the class looks at me like, are you serious? One guy right away, hey man, like my dad owns a company. Like, well, we'll hire you for way more than that. So yeah, okay, yeah, see you later.
So how did you get the money for a down payment? Because even, like that's a...
Yeah, so I like RSPs. We used a bunch of that, and then my wife's family had given us a few bucks too. So
Yeah.
It's a wedding present, but mainly RSPs. We pulled a big chunk out of that.
When did you start saving?
18. As soon as I was working for a manufacturing company, and they had brought the RSP plan in with them where they would match, right? So it was all the hype, and RSPs were still, at least in my mind, they were fairly new. I don't know if the rest of the world already knew about it, but to me it was brand new, and it was a great way to save money, and everybody had said, oh, great things, right? The government's going to take care of you, and there's not going to be CPP and stuff. So I took it seriously, and I've at minimum 10% of my income from my entire life has gone into RSPs. So
Really?
just off the bat, that was the bare minimum. I've had years where I did much better depending on circumstances. A lot of companies, always matching, so that's on top of that. And then I worked for another company for 7 years, and they had a phenomenal RSP plan. They were matching, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 15-20% of your contributions up to $5,000 a year. So on top of my, $15,000 because of what I was making plus theirs, it was decent. Yeah, I saved a lot of money over those years.
How is that rare? Like at 18 years old, like
I
think I'm going to tell you it's rare.
well,
Well, how did you come up? Like, how did you know that was important at 18?
I upbringing.
Yeah.
Like really, like I poor background, right? I didn't come from a lot of money. I didn't come from a lot of stuff, and I always knew I didn't want that for my family. And I saw the way my mother was going, that she was broke as an adult, no chance of retirement, no anything like that. I didn't want that for myself, right, and my family. And then I talked to a kid at the same time. Remember, it's just coming to me now that he talked about doing the same thing, and how every year he just overlapped his RSP plans, and it kind of hyped me up. Like it's just a bizarre conversation that you have, and you're not really thinking anything of it at the time, but it just kind of set in, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to jump on this train too, and put the effort in. And then it just became such a habit, you don't notice the money, especially with employee-based ones. Like, you just get into the habit, like 10%, and it just goes away. It's not like they're taking it out of your bank account, like, so you see the money go into your account and then it comes out. It doesn't make you sad. It's just never there. So you just kind of lose the mindset that you're losing money. It's the way I always looked at it.
Because that's a good point. Like, so from a structure standpoint, like whatever company you're working for, you just tell them, I want you to take 10% of whatever I'm making and put that into my RSP.
Yes. Yeah, they have an RSP plan, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember even like starting out, just, it's, I don't know if it's dumb when looking at it now, but I always had them take extra off in taxes.
Interesting.
Just so because I knew for sure I would never come tax time. And it was just basically a savings account, right? You do taxes, you get a big chunk of money back. And then as I got older, I stopped doing that and did the RSP plan instead. And just never took it out.
Any regrets?
No. Yeah, no.
Like, just like,
No,
like, no, let this go off.
No, not at all.
Why?
Freedom 55, bud.
Yeah.
I'm, the commercials when I was a kid, Freedom 55, but I don't want to work till I'm 60, man. I don't want to work till I'm 65. Like, I don't want to work tomorrow. So the sooner I can get out is a win. So yeah, I've always worked for my retirement, and I don't want to be an old man working, broken. I didn't take holidays and time off really when I was, up till now. I think I took my first holiday, like vacation, 3 years ago. My wife and I never went on a honeymoon when I got married. So we just always never did it. And I've always been saving up for retirement time. So I need to retire early so I can enjoy that, right? So yeah, just been a family man and just saving for the future, and 55. Yeah, it sounds so simple, but really just. Yeah.
Well, and what I'm hearing is just like how much discipline that you had from a very young age right? And then coming from coming from a background, you allude to, like, not a rich family, and something triggered in you that saving is the most important thing you can do. Like, it, as an 18-year-old, if you're walking into somebody's Jeep and you're going, man, if you're making $15 an hour as a third year, well, you're making less as a first year.
Yeah.
Our minimum wage back then was going to be right around $6 an hour, as I remember.
So I started pulling at $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And was excited to get 12.
Right. So, you're making $10 an hour, and every hour you work, you're contributing $1 to your retirement. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's just not seeing it. It's just not knowing it's there. It's just having it just go away. It just never calculated into my income. I never worried about, oh man, if I had that $120 that my RSP money took this paycheck. I never thought like that.
Yeah.
Just wasn't there. Just because I started at such a young age, like there's always, like from 18 to 20, maybe it might have crossed my mind when I was trying to go have a drink at the bar, but I wasn't a bar star. I didn't hang out in clubs. I didn't do stuff like that. So I've always been pretty quiet and pretty at home. And yeah.
So if you look back on that time, like was there stuff that you would have to give up and not doing, right? Like that. So because you were saving aggressively, because you were focused on it, like I don't want to work after I'm 55 years old, and plan towards that. Like, was there stuff that you intentionally didn't do so that you did have the money to save? Vacations.
Yeah. I would say that was the big one.
Yeah. And so you were conscious during those times. You're like, listen, I'm choosing not to vacation. I'm choosing to save.
I guess, yeah. But never had the conversation with myself, really. Like, just, yeah. I would say I'm having a hard time explaining it. It's just I always did. And, like, I never worried about it. It was just something I was doing. It was part of my life, and that was it, right? And then I've always been a long-term employee. So once I got into a job, it's not like I was having to start, stop. So you get those first paychecks in after your 3 months when the program starts. It was just not thought about.
It's just easy.
Yeah, it just was a habit. I never questioned it. I probably went 15 years without even considering the money that I had in there. I mean, aside from tax time, right? And report that, and take my little cutback, and yeah. It wasn't a hard thing. It wasn't a process. I didn't have to invest time into it.
Did you have any financial mentors or financial advisors who help with that?
No, just 10%. If I can't afford to put 10% of my income into my future,
yeah,
I'm seriously doing something wrong. That's kind of always been my outlook, and I've said that to other people. Like 10% is should be the bare minimum. I don't know how people feel about the government, but I don't think any CPP is going to be there even in 5-7 years. Certainly not going to rely on it. So I got to look out for myself, and that's always what I've done.
Yeah, I think when you and I have spoken kind of like off camera or spoken about like money and finances, like what I was picturing is like kind of like far more like an intentional struggle to save. Mm-hmm. And actually, what's really interesting to me is just like what I'm hearing is, well, John, like I set a goal to save 10%, and so I saved 10%, and I just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And here I am at 47 years old, and I've been saving 10% since I was 18.
Yeah.
Like and Freedom 55 is 8 years away.
It's looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking good.
Right, and then like being able to set a goal. And I look at like my friend group, the people that I grew up with, the conversation that I was having at 18, and I think you and I are going to be very similar. Like I've been thinking about my retirement since I was 14, right? Even younger, maybe.
Yeah, it's nothing wrong with that.
And I'm amazed how often when I'm speaking with even my peers at my age, people don't consider their retirement, right? And I think how much more of a challenge that is for people in their late teens, early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s.
I know some people that are really going to have a hard time.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
When you see those people who are going to have a hard time, like, do you think, like, do you kind of celebrate past Dave? Like, do you give, like, do you send some thank yous back to Dave as 23 years old, 25 years old?
Yeah, no, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I'd tell him 15%.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really? More?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I did 10% so easily. It was so it didn't affect my life. It wasn't, Like, so, put yourself in a position where maybe it might hurt. But 10% is good because it didn't hurt and I didn't feel the effects of it, is the easy part. And now that I'm in the position I am in, I'm looking at other more aggressive income things, right, or investments, right? So now anything I put in for RSPs in kind of the next 5-7 years isn't going to do a whole lot. I've kind of gotten all the benefit of it from starting early, right? So now I'm just looking at other opportunities to maybe cut that to 50. And
Now, if you think, like, the majority of our audience, they're not going to be, like, generally speaking, they're not going to be, like, financial people. They're going to be, like, tradespeople who are curious about the trades, people considering the trades. Yeah. What were the benefits that you see today of starting younger with saving money?
It's just will cost less.
Yeah,
it'll cost the earlier you start, the less it's going to cost now. For me if I wanted to have the life I want to have later on and start at 40, I'd have to put 60% of my income away. Where at 10% over all those years, was able to do more with less, I guess. Might be the easiest way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you think, like, when we go back to easy math, right? But $15 an hour, 2,000 hours, $30,000 a year, $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not much.
Starting at a young age, discipline.
Yeah, and like that's just my contribution too. I worked for a company for 7 years that was phenomenal. They matched a large, it was up north, right? So they matched quite a bit more than what you would see in the city. So I really capitalized there. So that was a big benefit. And also making exceptionally more. So that 10% in the city was, 10% up north was quite a bit more than 10% in the city, right? So yeah, when I worked up there, I definitely wasn't the cocaine and hookers guy.
Yeah.
I'd always been a family guy, and just I go home, spend my time at home, and it helps. I've always been a homebody. I don't have an exorbitant lifestyle. We barely even go out for dinner. We're just really home and happy, and that's kind of the way we've done it.
When you were up north, like, was that lifestyle that you allude to, like the cocaine and hooker lifestyle? Is that a thing? Okay.
It is, yeah. The big, guys buying $110,000 lifted truck because they're making good money and stuff, right? I didn't do stuff like that. I had a nice truck, but it wasn't anything crazy, but it was paid for. And
if you look back now, like, how old are you? How old would you have been roughly, like, when you were working up in Fort Mac?
Serious 6'10". Yeah, I think I was early 30s when I went up there. Yeah.
So if you look back, like 17 years then, right? Do you regret not having lifted truck?
I had one.
Okay.
It just wasn't a $110,000 truck. Yeah, I bought a used one, right? It was already lifted up, and it was already what I really liked and what I really wanted, and it was beautiful, and it was less than $110,000, I guess.
Yeah.
A $50,000 truck, right? But it didn't destroy me, and I had enough money that it wasn't a problem, and and then paying off the other big bills, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm like I'm really enjoying, like, how easy you make this sound, right? And that, like, you had a goal, mm-hmm. and you stuck with it.
Yeah.
Right, and then here you are as you approach that. It's like, what does it do for you mentally, right? So 8 years away from retirement, you're good at math. You've identified that the returns on an RSP are not going to be anywhere near as good as what they were when you were 18, right? Like, a $3,000 investment today will not do anything similar to what it does at 18.
No.
Right, and I think, and one thing I'd say for anybody watching is, like, watch videos, find a video on compounding interest. Yeah. Work with someone who can just explain to you about, like, hey, when you're in the trades, and one of the best things in the trades that you get is you can make good money quickly, right? Like, in 2 to 3 years, you can have a 6-figure income,
right?
Yep. And that means you can go buy a truck.
Yep.
$110,000 truck.
Right.
And maybe even a Ski-Doo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably even a boat.
I met my wife, no car, I was renting an apartment with my sister, and, like, I was But we both sacrificed it. We both. I'm sure she would have loved vacations along the way and a honeymoon, a little quicker than 10 years after we got married and stuff.
But like you take a look at that in investment, and for guys who are younger, and if you're able to save very aggressively, right? But put money towards a down payment, get ready to buy a house, pay down a house, right? Not carry credit card debt. All of a sudden, like if you can, as a 22-year-old, as a 23-year-old, 25-year-old, if you're able to save $10, $15, $20,000 like in a year, right? Then that might be that 20%, right, savings. Yeah. But all of a sudden in 20 years from there, that's going to be a lot more money. It's massive. I'm not good enough at math to do it off
the top of my head. But
was that your experience that heavy investment early on really did set you up for the future?
Absolutely. Like I said, now I'm able to look at different avenues of investment. I guess is a better way to put it. That more aggressive things that might turn over a little faster than the 20-year plan on the RSPs, right? So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now.
How cool is that to say, like as a lifelong tradesperson?
It's phenomenal. Yeah. I don't know a lot of people that can say it. I don't know anybody that can, right? Really. And I've had a good year already this year, so things are kind of working out, and it's been a good couple of months for me as far as that aggressive investments and stuff. So and really, like, if we're just doing the 10% a year with you, the same as I've always done. So yeah. But I don't have to worry so much. But like, I make it sound really easy, but like, we've had some tough years, and I have made some dumb decisions along the way. Yeah. So yeah, no, I know what it's like to still be broke. I still know what it's like to have a credit card I can't afford to pay off. Stuff like that. So like, I'm not all holy and perfect and stuff, but made some mistakes along the way, definitely. Like my what was it? What I call it, my $110,000 mistake, right? I had my nice truck that I bought up north, and moved back to came back to the city to work. And we decided we wanted to buy a trailer and a camper, right? So went and bought a camper. Okay, right on. Didn't pay cash, I was making payments and stuff. And then I traded in my truck that was paid for a truck that could haul my trailer. And then and then I rung up a expensive credit card. So yeah, like I haven't been flawless, but pulled some money out of RSPs that I had to clear myself up. Took the hit on that, right? But so I had something to fall back on. But I just, as much as it is to be all smiles, like it's easy to be smart with money and still make mistakes.
Yeah, and I'm happy you bring it up, because that's definitely a vibe like that I was getting. It's like, it's just been easy. Yeah, right. And I think it is more relatable, right? When you speak about like, well, no, like we wanted it, like not having vacations and in raising a family, like that's a major sacrifice, right? And then so you go, hey, well, I want to provide vacation to my family. Let's go do we're gonna buy a trailer, we'll buy this, like let's do it. Yeah. And then you get in trouble. Yeah. Yeah. Right? And I think for a lot of people, like that is relatable, because like our degree of want, right, is there's no shortage of things to want in this world.
I call it my champagne dreams on a beer budget, because I was used to the money I was making, and then I came back in to the city making substantially less, and making decisions based on money I wasn't making. So that was a struggle.
Why don't you make that money anymore?
Because you don't pay enough.
No, it's okay. Good point.
Like up north, it's different, right? Because like you're 21 days, 12 hours a day, right? So you're overtime after 8 hours automatically, right? So like, and then getting the wage I was getting, so it's just it was silly money,
right?
It really is for the work I was doing. I wasn't even plumbing, so.
And like, so it is like, what are the factors that like lead you to stay in Calgary as opposed to go back up north to make the insane much less work?
It almost cost me my family, really, I guess. Yeah, 7 years. Not to get too into family and stuff, but my oldest son really took it hard, and it really wrecked our relationship. So we're still working on that. My youngest is getting better over the last few years. My wife and I had separated, so it was just time. Okay, that's enough. We're okay. We don't need to do this. Yeah, so it's a choice to keep my family in my life, and
Yeah, and I think like my experience from talking with people who do go up north is like it costs the majority of them their families.
Yeah.
In my experience, is that there's very few people who I know who go up there, make a ton of money.
Yep.
The stereotype I'm aware of is they go up there, they make a ton of money, they come back with no family and no money.
Yep, you lose all your connections. You're working. You got to work for 3 weeks and you come home for a week. Well, your first 3 days home, you're done because you just worked 12 hours a day every day for 21 days. So you're not doing anything then. You got to give the family some time, and then there's preparation to go back. You really have to psych yourself up into that. So you're a couple of days into flights, checking stuff out, making sure you're packed, your clothes, right? So you're that 7 days off. The honey-do list, right? Go get all this stuff done, and it can be done.
It's taxing.
It really was. So yeah.
Is that safe to say, young man's game?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. If you can go do 5 or 6, 7 years up there, I definitely go do it. Take the money, grab the bags, and but just understand that there is a cost to that.
Yeah.
And the devil may cry, right?
So if cause I think a lot about young people, and for me, I remember being young. I remember guys your age telling me John, wear knee pads, right? You're not gonna be hey, don't lift that, right? Hey, ask for help, right? And then youthful ignorance, right? You're like, man, I'm invincible, dude. I can lift that. Yep. I don't need knee pads. My knees feel fine, right? And I'm very happy with myself that I didn't approach money with the same reckless abandon.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds very similar. You didn't approach that
Yeah.
for whatever abuse you would have done to yourself, money wasn't a part of that.
No.
Right? But I think of so many young people who get into that up north culture, or they're 23, 24 years old, and you're making 100 and some grand a year, and that potential to just feel like it just lasts forever.
Yep, it's a high. Absolutely, yeah. There's a high with doing it and making the money, and your buddies at home are working in restaurants because they're starting out and stuff, making minimum wage, and you're in there at the club doing whatever it is you're doing, and yeah, it's different. You look at different. You buy the nice car, so you look like you're doing okay, but there's a psychological and a mental cost to all that stuff.
Let's how do you talk to your kid, either your kids about money, or do you talk with any of the apprentices about money? Obviously,
I've touched on it with a few. Really, it depends on the apprentice. We've got one now that I really enjoy working with, and he reminds me of me, I guess. I wish he'd work a little harder, but he's a good kid. He's got a good heart and a good mentality.
Yeah.
So I kind of touched on it with him and stuff, but I'm not aggressively going to go after somebody about stuff. If I mention something and they ask questions and show curiosity towards it, I'll give them everything they want to know, right? But I'm not going to chase people down for information that they don't want or aren't going to appreciate. Save my breath. Usually you can tell the ones that want it and the ones that don't. Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
do you think there's a cost, for actually talk about your health right now?
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to work at the same level as you were able to work 20 years ago?
No, I'm like a dwarf now.
Yeah.
Good at short sprints, yeah. That's, even today on the ladder, like I was saying, a bunch of times up and down that ladder that last time, my knees went, hey, what are you doing, man? So,
How many times up the ladder, and how tall the ladder?
I was an 8-foot ladder. I was probably, 15, 20 times.
Yep.
So yeah, it adds up. My hands are really kind of the worst thing nowadays. I get on the power tools and the vibrations are just not working for me.
Do you notice, right? It's you're on the power tools and you got to peel your fingers off? Is that where?
No, but I've had jobs like that. Yeah. No, it's not that bad. I get arthritis now in my hands, right? So when the weather changes, things stiffen up. They all swell up and stuff. So it can be gnarly. Yeah. But
Is there a certain, like, and then how about from a time perspective? Like, you know, you talk about like 21 days, 10 hours a day, right? 3 consecutive weeks, right? We're like making tons of money. Like, if you think about the concept of doing that right now, let's say no family cost, no other cost at all. Like from a body perspective,
I would
do that right now?
absolutely, because my job was so easy. Oh, it was so easy. Like, yeah, no, it was easier than what I do now. My worst day out there
Yep.
was, yeah, no, the money was silly and the job was super simple.
It was super simple.
Yeah, I wasn't plumbing. Very little bit of plumbing. It was a facility maintenance, right? So, mostly in camps of a couple hundred people, and so I go plunge a toilet or change a light bulb, right? For 12 hours a day, really. So how many of those are you going to do in a day? Let alone 2 or 3 a week, right? So, of course, there's bad days when you get stuff freezing up, but really the cost reward was
Yeah, and easier on your body.
by far, yeah.
Because, like, how much? I'm trying to kind of formulate the question. Like, how many days are easy on your body when you're working in the field, and how many are hard on your body? Like, is there certain like so facility maintenance sounds like that's easier on your body?
Yeah.
Like, and then how does like commercial plumbing that you do today?
For me, like in my position now, when I get tired on the job, it's somebody else go do it, right? Like, and I hate to be honest, but like really, that's kind of the position I'm in. If I'm on the tools on the job site, it's because I'm helping, and I feel like you need some help to meet a deadline, right? Like that's why we're doing it today. I want the job done by the end of the week, and looked like they were falling behind a little bit and needed some guidance and just a helping hand. So jump in and help out, right?
Do you think everybody who starts a trade is going to be a supervisor one day?
No.
Why not?
Just some people don't have the mentality for it. The organization, like being able to organize multiple scenarios at the same time, the pre-planning involved, which even at times I fail at miserably. But as I go here, I do the best to learn from my mistakes. But no, I don't think everybody would be able to do it. Some people even just struggle just to be a journeyman and produce journeyman caliber work. I've seen people struggle. So no, not everybody can do it.
When you see those guys who can't do it, actually, what is the career like for the guys who are journeymen who aren't really journeymen? What's your observation? Like,
There's a place for everybody.
Okay.
Right? So the journeyman that can't be a supervisor might be a rock star on the tools, right? So just because you can't run a job or have the social skills to talk to people, it doesn't mean you're not good at your job. Other people are really well with organizing material, right? They might not be good as an apprentice or they might struggle as a first or second year apprentice, but are a knockout when it comes to material. There's a place for that as well on bigger jobs. I can have him do menial tasks, and then when deliveries come in, okay, man, I need you to rock this out and tell me what's here, make sure this order's correct. And so finding the value in people is probably 25% of my job. Is just finding the value in a person and finding where they're going to excel at. I don't want to see anybody fail. The last thing I want to do is get rid of somebody. And I'll give everybody 100% before I ever feel like there's not a spot. So yeah, it's just getting to know your guys, understanding what their abilities are, and that's what I look at when I'm talking to guys. Yeah.
if you're struggling with one of your guys and you don't think you have them in the right position, or you're struggling finding, like, you tried in a couple different places and you don't think you found what they're good at, what they excel in, what is a conversation with you like? Like, how do you approach that with someone who's, let's say, on like their third or fourth try?
I don't
play it on me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had that conversation yet.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I can't think of a scenario where I've come across that. What's the easiest way to put it? I've had to talk to people that I really respect about their failures and why they might not be doing what they were doing previously. But it's generally with a plan to get them back to where they are. This is where we made mistakes. This is my part of the mistake that happened. And this is your part, and you and I need to find a way to make that work. I know you're smart. I know you know the job. We need to understand each other and why whatever happened didn't work. And then we give them a shot and see, and I implement. I make sure that my part of it is corrected, and then I follow up with them to make sure that their part is corrected, and help them and guide them. And like I said, nobody knows everything, so it's just finding their strengths and their weaknesses, and hoping they're willing to fix their weaknesses. Sometimes run into guys that no, I'm not doing nothing wrong. Like, this is all your fault, and that's tough to deal with. And then they get a hard line conversation, and well, no, this is where we're at, right? So hopefully they respect me enough to understand what I'm saying and what I'm doing, and go from there.
When you're having those conversations with them, like actually what I think you touched on, and I just want to reiterate it, but it's like you take accountability for your role in the mistake, and then you carve out what they need to do better, but that's in their control. So you're not making them accountable for like, hey, you know the material was wrong, but you should have done it differently. Right. But it's like, hey, I'll get the right material here, but you got to do it right. If you got the right material, you have to do it.
That's right.
Right, and I think that's something that is quite often lost on managers, where they start making the people underneath them that report to them responsible for outcomes with stuff within that is not in their control. Right. Like, holding someone accountable for a timeline, but shipping them the wrong material. Right. Holding them accountable for a timeline, but not giving them a work order.
Right.
Holding them accountable for a timeline, but not giving them a set of plans. Yeah. Right. Hold them accountable for a timeline, but not giving them support that's clearly needed.
And no direction. Coming in on the fourth day and saying, oh, this all should have been done. Well, how come? Why didn't you guide me? I'm supposed to be the smart one that understands the process in building it. And at the beginning of the job, we should have said, okay, well, to meet this deadline, we got to get this done. To meet this deadline, we're going to have to get this done while we do this. So you need to manage your time. Me, when it comes to ordering material, that one's always a struggle for me, because everybody, 10 different plumbers are going to plumb things 10 different ways. I mean, yeah, there's code, but everybody looks at things differently. So when I'm ordering material from a set of blueprints, it's generally not going to work that way. So I try to tell the guys, I'm going to give you 90% of the material. You need to watch that 10% that's not going to be there, because I can't account for everything that's happening in the scenario, right? So my 90% plus your 10% should get us all the way there, right?
Well, if you think about like how work runs, and that we all have different responsibilities, like the role of an apprentice, the role of a journeyman, a trainer, a lead hand, a supervisor, a project manager, inside or outside, like divisionally, president, CEO, finance, like we all do something differently. Mm-hmm. So in the relationship of what do your journeymen underneath you do for you? Right, that you go we're working as a team, and this is more not necessarily for just the journeymen who work underneath you, but for other guys who are working in various trades across Calgary or North America. If you're a journeyman and you want to make your supervisor's life easier, what does that look like? What are the things that they're doing that you go, oh fuck yeah, man, we're doing it?
So I got my rock star right now.
Yep.
And then I have an up and coming guy that I think is going to be amazing once he gets things dialed in. But they're the ones that are looking ahead.
Okay.
Okay, we got to get this done even tomorrow, and looking at the material that's available on hand and what they think they might need, and just ensuring that that's coming, or organizing it themselves. Just them being organized and looking ahead, because I can't be on site all the time, and quite often things are fluid in a big job, and just being honest with me. Hey man, we might run short here. Let's be prepared to either get some or just order it ahead of time, and then being able to think outside the box, which my rock star does. He's definitely making me happy.
What when somebody's thinking outside the box, kind of high level, what is that like? What does that kind of look like?
Just the ability to adjust, right? Okay, well, we're short a coupling. Oh, I'm just going to stop. I can't do anything because I don't have this coupling. Well, if you throw a couple of 45s on there, you don't need a coupling, and then we carry on, right? Utilizing the material we've got, as opposed to just, no, I can't do this because I don't have the one thing I'm looking at. So, yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
And they're spot on. Now, if that's what they're doing for you, in exchange for that, right, because he's a rock star, what do you do for him?
Whatever he asks. Within limits, but no, I just try to be supportive and the compliments and let him know that I like to think that I'm quite verbal with my guys when it comes to how I'm feeling about what they're doing. I got no problem patting a guy on the back, buying a Tim's card. The guys that we have, it seems like they're really receptive to just verbal, right? Like, hey man, like you guys killed it today. Like, love that. You guys make and let them know you guys have made my life easy on this. And that goes a long way. And then when it comes to talks in the office and stuff, I always talk up on guys if they're, worth talking up. And I value it, and I try to express that to them, that you guys are members of my team and member of my family, and whatever you need, like if let me know.
Well, and what would be an example of that? Like in like that whatever you need, like what's a common ask?
Yeah. So maybe that's a good way to put it. Like, hey, so we got this scenario. This would make my life easy. This is the way I can do it. What can you do for me? Man, I'll go get whatever it is you need that'll make your life easy, because I don't want you sweating and humping and crying all day because, baby, I missed that 10% in my material, right? So, you want a urinal flange that you can glue in instead of using the brass nipple that's a pain in the arse to use, right? I'll go get that for you, because if you're going to put it in faster, you're going to be happy you're doing it. And it's not huge things, but it's...
And I'm glad that you made it specific, right? Because I think there's a lot of like our whole world works on give and take, but we're also getting into like there's more. What I feel like from a societal standpoint is like, well, what's in it for me? I got to take care of me first. Me. Right? And what you're talking about is hey, like what I need for my journeyman is I need them to be proactive, right? I need them to look ahead, let me know what's coming up, and I'll get it for them. Yeah. Right? And that's something that comes at a cost for them. That's additional pressure that not everybody does. Yep. So, okay, well, try to answer the question, like, what is in it for them? Right? But the guy calls and goes, hey, man, I can do it with the material I have. Yeah. If you just gave me, if you give me a couple $100 more material, if you give me something, if you give me this fitting, or maybe it's not even more dollar value, but if I just had this, it'd make my life easier. Yep. And you go, hey, you know what, man? You look ahead. You're proactive. Yep. I'm going to go out of my way to actually get this for you.
Does this need to be done right now? No? Then let me go get you what you need, right?
Yeah. Dave, like you bring up a good point, right? When you have guys underneath you, right? They're in the field, they have your back, right? They are doing the right stuff, where they're looking ahead, they're organized, they're proactive. And really, it's just that feeling of like you feel supported. And I know on my end, like, I have the same thing. It's actually really interesting that the same things that you're looking for, when I look for like the guys who report to me, or even like the contractors that we use, the consultants that we use, and I'll pick on Pushy 6, right? The day that we hired them, I was like, man, you guys need to hold me accountable. If I need something, you need to tell me I need it. You need to make sure we do this. This is very important. I'll hold at my end. I'll do it, but I need your eyes on this, right? Yep. And then I think, to a lot of other, like to many other staff that I've had over the years, or relationships, where like I just haven't felt that they have my back, right? They do their job, right? A guy goes to site, he does his best with the material that they have, but they don't call. They're not going through the material list in advance. They're not checking their back orders, right? You kind of get the call at the end of the day where the guy's like, I'm not going to be done. And you go, dude, where was this phone call 3 hours ago? Right. Like, why didn't you tell me? I would have done something, right, to help you. And then like, I don't like to say it because it kind of does make it sound cruel. But all of a sudden, some of those guys need a favor, right? And it's way tougher for me to want to go out of my way. Right. I think that's something within like that, like the manager, supervisor, journeyman, apprentice, owner, CEO, president, whatever title we all have, like, contractor, subcontractor, consultant, I don't think we talk enough about what the consequences are. Like for me not supporting you, like, if you don't feel like I have your back, what's the cost to me?
Yeah.
Right? If I don't feel like you have my back, what's the cost to you?
Right.
Right? And I think that's something where I'm really, like, it's really affirming. And I think more managers really do need to focus on, like, hey, what are the guys underneath me doing? Mm-hmm. How do they support me? How do they make my life easier? What do I do? Like, and then literally, like, what do I do for them that really does bring that attention so that they know that it matters? Like, what is in it for them to go that extra mile?
Yeah. I've seen like managers that have been doing the job for a long time really lose touch with what it's like to be an employee, what it's like to be out there. And I don't ever want to do that. My goal in my career is to always be a employee's boss, supervisor, right? I always, because without them, I'm going to fail. So if I'm not putting them in a position to succeed, I'm sure not going to. So
how do you balance then? Actually, sorry. Is there a balancing act between the needs of the guy in the field and the needs of the company? Because you're kind of in the middle between the two.
Absolutely. I don't have a clear path on how I deal with it, just because every situation kind of revolves and there's no two situations the same. So I just do the best with what I've got at the time, to be honest with you. It's
like, do you think about like the needs of the company and the needs of really?
Absolutely. The needs of the company, you guys pay me. Like if you're not making money, I'm not making money, nobody has a job. So that has to be a factor. Do my employees' mental health and safety and their success matter as well? Absolutely, yeah.
So when you're balanced, like, yes, how easy is that to balance? And then do you have support?
Yep.
No?
And it's very hard.
Yeah.
We've had some employees with mental health issues, which was really tough because I understand what they're coming from and where they're thinking. But at the same time, I need to look out for you. I need to look out for the job. And it just didn't work out. I felt terrible, like it just awful. But, so many chances and so much effort spent on trying to make that person better, but I can't fix them. So that it was really tough when I did eventually let them go, and it was really hard. But it was just costing money, time, scheduling,
Reputation.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad employee. Made some mistakes that definitely shouldn't have made, and I think a lot of it played into what was going on. You started out doing this all just fine, and then from here, everything was wrong. Like you're doing the exact same job here as you did here, but somehow these ones are just out to lunch. Like you're not even close. Like so, and that I think had a bad day. And that was kind of the final straw. Was just, man, like I can't do this. I can't, if I can't trust you to set a toilet flange correctly after you've done 20 correctly, like that's a problem. And so it was sad. It was sad. It bothered me a lot to make the decision. But again, it's your money that he's spending when he's cutting out, 30 flanges on concrete floor.
When you're working with guys and you're giving them opportunities, right? How do those conversations go?
I like to think the conversation doesn't. I guess I don't have the conversation. Like it's work. Like if you're working hard for me, you'll know I appreciate your effort. That's because I'm very vocal with the guys. You guys killed it today. We're having a great week. Like you guys are getting this done on schedule. Very pat on the back-ish.
And what if it's not a great week? What if it's not a great week?
Then I'm not telling you it's a great week, and you're going to know because I'm going to be kind of quiet.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't take my... Sorry. I never try to take my bad day out on the guys.
Yeah.
Right? Have I had to go on site and crack the whip and what the hell is going on here, guys? But I don't do it to one person. It'll be a group event. You're always going to hear this, whether you all need to hear it or not. But you guys are a team on a site, and if this guy's messing up, you all are messing up because you guys are supposed to be working together, right?
Really preaching that team mentality like that, so that mistakes are shared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the commercial world, we have to. It can't just be one person. And that's why I take that on myself, too. When a job's not going well, it's not just the guys on the job site. It's my fault as well, right? So we all take meetings. We've all had meetings where nobody wanted to be there. But as long as we're learning for the next one, I expect mistakes to happen. We're humans. So once, twice, yeah. I had 3, 4, 5 times. It's going to be a different conversation.
It's an interesting one. Like we, on a previous conversation with like Lynette, we had spoken about like her transition from the field into supervision, and then going from getting a lot of praise and knowing that she's doing awesome, because she's doing awesome, right to the supervision role where basically she knows she's doing good because nobody talks to her. How that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
And I've been speaking to more and more people, like both on the podcast and not.
Yeah.
Just in general, but like how that is such a very common.
Yes, I guess.
It's common within our society, like that we kind of lose sight of the people in the middle.
Yeah, I've always been a no news is good news guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm not getting dumped on, then things are going well, and I'll take it. I'm not going to ask because I don't want to find out that really I am messing up, right? So that's kind of the way I've looked at it.
In your experience, have you got a lot of like structured feedback at any of the company in your 25 years in the industry? Have you got a lot of structured feedback, like one-to-ones, goal setting, anything? No way.
Not zero. Yeah, no. Yeah.
No, you know anybody in the industry who has? Like, is that
No.
Okay.
No, not really. But again, I don't talk about the feelings, I guess, really. Like, I've never, like, I want to put this, I guess. Up until working for you, I've always just been the quiet guy, just went to work, knew what I had to do, and what I didn't know how to do. I was always pretty lucky at figuring out how to do it anyways. So I've never had strong relationships with foremen, field supervisors. Like, I've just always been kind of my own thing, and so I never really looked for the recognition or needed it. I just knew, again, if I wasn't getting yelled at, or if I was getting hauled into an office, I was doing okay. And I never worried about my job. I always knew that I was getting by. I might not have been the best guy, but I certainly wasn't the worst guy, and I was okay with that. So.
Had you ever been fired?
Yes.
Why?
All right, well, I've been fired twice.
Okay.
So the first time I was fired, I was 18, 19. I was a janitor, cleaning kitchens in the middle of the night, and just had enough of it. Decided the one time I wanted to be a bar star, and tried to call my boss. Oh, I'm in Kelowna. Can't get to work. He says, oh, don't bother coming back, right? So,
Okay.
All right, fair.
18, 19 years old?
Legit, yeah, no, you got it. And then I lost my job up north eventually. As much as I was looking to come home, I did eventually get fired. But that was because I
Yeah. Enough up.
Yeah.
It's no, it's I appreciate your honesty, because that's some of the sides of like within the trade industry, or just in general. There's a few different ways to leave a job. They're not always forever.
No.
Right? And the way I know you, like high accountability, high care, right? Like high give a shit, head down, ass up.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's and I think one thing that I would say too is you are insightful, and you're generally willing to have hard conversations within a reasonable amount of time. Right? Like if something bugs you, you'll talk. You'll tell me.
Yeah.
You've done that in the past.
True. Yeah.
Right? And I don't always find that. Mm-hmm. That, like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for anybody who, like, in my case, who will work for me. And if I do something or say something or something goes on that they don't like, and they have the courage to come tell me about it, as opposed to quit, because I've also experienced it the other way.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, where something I've done or said, and they'll look at managers, right? Because it's not just me, but where people don't have the courage to say something, and they just go, not worth my time. I know.
I can tell you that day that I talked to you, I would put this into words. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because I am not like that.
Really?
I am not confrontational. I hate confrontation. I will stew and let something and just go until I have to, and then I formulate a plan on how to do it. But I never dreamed of saying that to you that day, and it was just the way the conversation went, and said, okay, well, here we go. But I had never done that before, ever. So you were my first go at that, and it was hard. It was really hard, but I'm glad I did it, and I learned a big lesson that day, just in myself, that the confidence to, you know what, if you got an issue, nothing's going to change if you just don't change it. If you don't have the conversation, I didn't know where that had come from, and that was the hardest part, and I would never know if I didn't ask. So I was glad I asked, and generally not like that. I'm very non-confrontational. That's the hardest part about my job.
Is it?
Yeah, is having to have hard conversations with people. Yeah.
Is that? And thank you. Thanks for honesty. Because it a lot of that, to me, in that moment, for context for people who are watching, is like I had said, we were having an off the cuff conversation, the week before. I forget the exact comment that I had made, kind of within a bunch of sentences, and it just didn't sit right with you.
No.
Right? And you just remember you coming up, just going, John, man, you said this, and that didn't really sit well with me. What did you mean by that?
Yeah.
And I do remember, right? Just sitting there, and once again, I can't remember exactly what it said. Maybe if you do, feel free to say it. But just going, man, yeah, I did say that. And then thinking about that, okay, with a strong amount of embarrassment. I don't like making mistakes. I don't like creating an uncomfortable work situation for anybody, of course, right? And here you are telling me, and I'm like, holy shit, I did that.
Yeah.
Right? And then, with that willingness to not want to gaslight you. Mm-hmm. Right? And you go, oh no, either, I didn't say that, or you misinterpreted, or that's not what it meant.
Yeah.
But to really take ownership of that. And then for me to really try to match your honesty.
I did appreciate your reaction to the situation, and respected you a lot for the way you handled it. Because a lot of people would have been, I didn't mean it, so it doesn't matter, right? Where you actually listened to the words that I'd said that day, and whether even if you weren't sure of the context, you understood the value of what I was saying, and that was a huge thing for me, that you took the time to think about it and actually respect what was being said. So,
yeah, and then, and I'm happy. It's a really concise way to say it, because in a lot of the the leadership courses that I've taken, the YouTubes, the podcasts, years of making tons of mistakes and costing quality human beings who don't work with me anymore, right? And really trying to take that high level understanding and just going, the way in that scenario that you interpret it, whatever was going on, that is the way you interpret it. We're independent from me, and that's taken me a long time to get to that level. And my hope for any leader, not just at Wheeler, the company around, but really just to acknowledge that your reality is your reality, and my job as a leader, or your job as a leader, isn't to change. It's not to change your reality, right? Just to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Dude, is that what you heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
That must suck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's nice, because I think in a world of really a lack of affirmation, right? In the same way that that you do a good job because nobody tells you, right? I'm not too dissimilar, right? Just if you wouldn't tell me that actually would that made an impact, I'd have no idea.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And it's really I think it's a real strength of leadership, right? Where all of a sudden you practice what you preach. You affirm your guys. Well, you also affirmed me. Yeah. I know that mattered to you, and I'm far more likely to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what's funny is I don't remember what I did wrong.
Yeah.
but I remember like that what I said was not like what I said didn't land well. And I can choose my words better, right? When I look back with hindsight, like, no, I could have changed what I'd done 100%.
It was just so off the cuff, like just it was so random and just. Okay, well, that really changes the outlook on how I feel here in the company, and so yeah, it was choice time. It was either we have a conversation or I have a conversation with myself, right?
And quit. Right? Let's make it explicit. I mean, yeah, John, I got to quit.
Yeah. I can't work under this if that's the way things are, and
Yeah. And I think that's, trying to promote a culture of honesty and openness and accountability, and then especially accountability that's vertical. Right? That in the same way, like most people think about leadership is top down. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. You can give your guy shit, I can give you shit.
Yeah.
But then there is that, like, well, what do I owe you?
Yeah.
Like, right? You don't have to come talk to me.
Yeah.
You don't owe me. You don't owe me that.
Right.
Right.
It's
you would freely
more
give
my
it.
way than your way for sure. But
right, and then you freely give it. Well, then what do I owe you if you do it? And I think more leaders and managers, and for yourself or anybody who leads people, really to be open.
Yeah.
To like, hey, you have a tremendous amount of insight. You know better absolutely than I do.
Right.
Like how you interpret my words, and you have the courage to tell me about it. That a lot of people won't. I'm better because you told me. I mean, for like trying to demonstrate humility for all those.
That was a valuable lesson to me too, and actually encouraged me to look back. And I've made a mistake that I still to this day regret with one of our employees, and I don't think I'll ever be able to get him back and just apologize just how sorry I am to him. And he ended up quitting. He's a fantastic employee. And if you're listening, man, like, feel I made a mistake. I really did. And I'd love to not smile a little bit there. But and I'm not perfect, and I'm learning as I go.
How can our industry, how can your company help you learn better to mitigate, like to try to reduce the chances of a mistake making an impact on somebody's life?
I mean, aside from getting into shrinks and head doctors and stuff like that, I don't have the answer for that because I'm so kind of weird on my own end of things, really. But I'm pretty old school and still, throw wrenches. But it's getting better. Like even just the water thing we were talking about the other day, where in my apprenticeship, I never drank water on the job site. But now all the job sites you go to, they have to provide water, right? So it's things are changing, and our medical plans are getting better to include mental health things, which you guys provide, which is. As the kid that I was talking about that I couldn't help, he took advantage of it, and it was good, and it was great that we had it, and it was a help for him in a dark place. I know that was a win. So times are changing, and things are changing, and the mental health aspect of even just the employee's position is greatly getting better.
So if so is it kind of been your experience that because the company does offer like mental health coverage, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like $1,500 a year.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
From what you see, has that made a difference?
Well, I know two now of our employees that have used that system, and absolutely is beneficial. For men, we have a hard time talking, right? So if we can give them an outlet that's simple and easy to use and doesn't cost them money, it's one of the most valuable aspects to our medical plan, I think. Coming from a guy who knows about mental health and has a pretty strong opinion on it, that's absolutely, when I heard we were doing that, big kudos. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Now, I always like to play devil's advocate a little bit, or not, maybe devil's advocate's the wrong word, but to try to make things more explicit, I guess. Is Wheeler a better, more profitable company then? Like, is your job better? Can you do your job easier because those guys took advantage of that, the $1,500 a year, or maybe more or less, whatever they took? Is Wheeler $1,500 better because of that?
Yes. So
no doubt.
Of the two scenarios that we dealt with, One, I think, needed more than that. But again, we can only do so much. The other, absolutely.
No doubt in your mind.
Save my rock star.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, would it have, like, so it was worth $1,500 for sure?
I would have paid 5,000 for it.
And that's what I was going to say.
Because
It's
he's
like,
making you that now.
no question.
No question.
And I think that's sometimes the side of, like, that I feel like is missing in the conversation around mental health, right? Is it feels like it's an expense. And I think maybe to a certain degree, to a certain person, maybe it is just an expense. But when framed as an investment, so like, hey, so we'll use the math. $1,500 investment, $5,000 return. You're an investing guy. Is that a good return?
All over it.
How many times a year would you do that?
Every paycheck, every day for the rest of my life. I'm on it. Yeah.
Easy money.
And the heart part of it too. Like it's helping people, whether you're getting a financial gain from it too. And I don't think that's your bottom line, the financial end of it. But it feels good to be able to help people, right? And to have the option, you know, if a guy's struggling or needs help, whether it's me or Chelsea or whoever, can offer that to them, right? And say, hey, this is here for you. You know, you don't need to tell me what you're doing. I don't need to know. But that's there for you, and take advantage of it if you need to. And it's, you know, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. You'll be happier for it.
Do you remember what the benefits coverage was before it got increased to $1,500? It was $500.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's not a lot of coverage when it comes to that person.
And you know, and I think it would be of value, even just so you know, right? And I think what's really neat about the conversation is that we haven't talked about this before,
no,
right? But you noticed that it went up, and you're like, hey, kudos to the company, which you didn't come and tell me,
yeah,
right? But you don't have to,
yeah,
right? But where that started is I thought, you know, there's a lot of conversations surrounding mental health, right? We talk about more and more in like the construction industry, men in particular. The majority of our employees are men. The vast majority of our field employees are men, right? Like mental health matters. There's the Bell has their mental health month. Yep. There's more and more conversations surrounding it. Yeah. Mental health is important to me. I have had my own struggles like throughout life, especially between 14 and 21, right? And, you know, between 21 and 38.
14 to 47.
I am familiar with a large degree of the mental health industry.
Yeah.
And I really had to sit down with our HR person. And the conversation was, am I putting my money where my mouth is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've talked to her and I said, well, I have two choices. I can either shut my mouth or I can put my money there.
Yeah.
But if I keep talking about it.
Yeah. You made the right call as far as the guys, as far as our employees and just being a decent person in general, really. Yeah. I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm happy you brought that up because I think that's the other part too, is that I don't always know who's taking the advantage or not.
Yeah.
Right? And then I mean, like, not in like the milking, I just mean like who is utilizing the benefit and getting a benefit from it. And I think what's really appealing, and I think that I've been spending more and more time thinking about, is the relationship that you have with the guys underneath you.
Yeah.
Right? And that was that line, being like, you have a guy who's struggling, you notice it, you're having a conversation with him, you're working in conjunction with human resources within the company, saying, how do we support this guy? The person takes advantage of it. It works for them. Like they're able to take care of themselves in a time where they need care. And then they're coming back and they're getting better, and you're able to kind of be a part of that success. Can I ask, like, were you able to kind of celebrate that with him, or like what's that like for him to turn that around?
Blue collar worker mental health is the silent killer, right? So we should, and I advocate for the conversation. But if somebody comes to me all day long, what do you need? I'll have the conversation. But I don't feel if it's not brought up to me, you know, I wouldn't know how to broach the situation because of my own way I deal with my own stuff, right? So, but knowing that it's there and I can push that in a direction I appreciate that, a lot of it. So,
and I'm excited that you know someone who's taking advantage of it's worked for them.
Yep.
And like it's been brought to my attention, like, you know, one other person for her has come and just said, hey, like, this has been super valuable for me, right? And then what was really cool, like, and the reality is, like, we run a single-digit business, right? Like, when it comes to margin, right? Like,
I'm learning here. This is
it's tight, right? Like, and as much as like we have this, oh well, yeah, I want to do good. I should just spend money on that because it's good.
Yeah.
So, like that, like I agree.
Yeah.
But if there's no money, there's no money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's really challenging. And I like the challenge. So I don't want to dissuade it, but it's challenging to say, well, these are my beliefs. Right? I want to invest in mental health. Mental health is important. I care about you as a person, right? And he goes, all those words are very easy to say.
Yep.
But I go, well, how do I show Dave that I care? Look, that's way harder.
Great first step.
Right? Yeah, right? Asking the question, how do I do it? Right? And then all of a sudden I have someone who's speaking to me going, hey, this has been super effective for me. Well, how? You know, and without getting into details.
Yeah.
But, you know, high level, how has it been effective? And they tell me, like, okay, is Wheeler better?
Yes.
Right? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, now I need to make this very specific. Like, if this is like $500 on a biweekly basis, right, or $400 on a biweekly basis, is Wheeler better? $400 biweekly,
Yes.
right? And they go like, yes, right? You go, okay. Do you need more money? And yeah, and it starts getting into right the real nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and it only works in the environment of like, can we have the open and honest conversation? And it doesn't have to be like, hey, what issues do you discuss with your therapist? Right? But it is like that higher level, like, hey, what do you work on? How do you know that it's better? Like, well, you know, I show up, like, I attend work more frequently. You go, really?
Yeah.
Like, where you start? And it starts to, you know, and then it gets into other stuff. Like, well, hey, what about sports? Like, what do you outside of work? And people go, oh, man, I do this outside of work. Well, is that like, does that make you better? Oh, dude, it is amazing. You know, after a night of this or that.
Go crush softballs all night long for a Friday night. Yeah.
Right? And you start seeing the different ways that mental health plays into the human beings that show up to work. And then how do we then take some of these and celebrate them?
Yeah.
Internally, right? You're spending 8 to 12 hours a day with your guys, right? You're on the phone a lot. A lot of the time you're speaking to them, it's going to be about crap going wrong. That's not on site. Material, like, and it's like, hey, where are some of the victories? And then being able to start bringing in some of these victories from outside of work potentially, right? It's like, hey, like how was softball?
Yeah.
Great, man. We crushed it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, you know, hey, how was this? How was that?
The team sports are always, that's, you know, we've been doing it for thousands of years. Group sports, right? All the way back to the Mayans. So there's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. Like, I think, you know, mental health month, I think is coming up in February. I should probably know it better. But I've seen the Bell commercials up again. But really trying to see like leaders within all of our businesses. We're just starting to look at like what is the value, what is the return on caring about mental health, caring about the staff, having like being able to empower you, right, as a man who doesn't like to talk about stuff, right? In a perfect world, it just kind of shows up. If there's a job, and I go home, spend time with my family, right? But then how to be able to set you up where these like the people around you who you care about, if you see that they're struggling, you feel like you're at least half prepared to talk to them.
Yeah, I like to think of it more as they're not going to come to me when they're in a time of need.
Yeah.
That they know that they can go do that. Nobody's going to come to me, oh man, I'm depressed, right? It's because we're men and we're on a job site and we don't generally talk like that, right? To be in all practicality, no.
Okay.
No. We don't. Yeah.
It's really like, man, if like,
we don't put tampons in the boys' bathrooms, and we don't talk about our feelings on the job site because there's a time and a place for everything, right?
Where is the time and place?
Good question. Ask your therapist.
Yep. Ask your therapist.
because I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I mean, obviously, I have a heart, right, and I get the feelings and I understand them, and I can relate to a lot of it. But your boss is maybe not the best place to start with it. The option of being able to go look for that themselves, or having the contact information for themselves, for most men, I think, is going to be how that would get dealt with.
Yeah.
To do. Yeah, when you're in a dark place, you're not looking for people to coach you. That's something you're gonna go do in a dark corner.
I think that's one of the hardest things when it comes down to like the decision to go like talk to somebody about what's going on. Like when you don't care about yourself, like when you're depressed, like it's very challenging because the only person who's reaching out for help is somebody who loves themselves enough to reach out for help. And generally, in that like depressed state, it's for so many people, and it's tragic.
Yeah.
Some people don't get out of that and being able to set people up earlier with the information, having the conversations in advance, trying to be able to pick up on some of the conversational tones, just go, man, like, how you doing? Not that great. Yeah. Hey, just so you know, right? Like, no judgment, right? There's the availability of additional help and support.
Like I've said to guys, like, man, if you need a chat, like I'm here for you. Like I give you my ear, and like whatever you need. Like I'm not an animal. Yeah, and I see you're struggling, right? So like if you want, after hours we can go sit in the truck and have a smoke and have a chat if you need to, whatever you need, and then we have the medical here that you can utilize for sure. So, but if we were to save one person, right? Like that's there's no value to anything at that point, right?
And I think that's one aspect. Like it's on my list of things to think about and to try to implement. Like, for the number of our staff and just staff across our industry who are in those supervisory roles, you guys play such a critical role because you can tell, right? You're seeing these people on a daily basis, and especially because of the construction industry in general, like the people who are best suited to help typically are in HR, right? There's a little bit more training, there's a little bit more structure, like they're better suited to that, but they don't have that direct connection with field staff. No. And so that direct connection comes from guys like you, guys from Kyle, right? Like the supervisory role. And I was like, well, and I appreciate what you say. And, I'm just going to go backwards. I'm like, hey, where's the right time and place? The time and place in my truck after work. Let's sit down together and we'll just chat, right? And you allow that to be open with that fine line. Like, hey, like, we're not their counselor. You're not their therapist.
Right.
But you might be able to just get enough information to go, listen, here's the human resources number.
Yeah.
Here's the cards and stuff that they've given me, so you don't have to talk to them just if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Here's where the resources are available, right? And I'm here for you. And then what I really encourage you to is just go, hey, when can I follow up with you, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to?
Yeah.
Because we can get out of this vehicle and both of us can pretend this never happened and that's okay.
Yep.
Right? Or I can talk to you tomorrow or next week or next month or never again. And to try to just build that, like, it's to reinforce that they do matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's valuable. Yeah, I had never thought of that part of it, but yeah.
It's and man, like I'm learning all this stuff on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very encouraged as an industry, as a society, that we are talking about how people show up.
Yep.
Right? Like that there are changes and what leads into that. Like when you have a good day, when you have a bad day, what are the differences?
Yeah.
Right? What can we do if you're having a bad day? And sometimes the answer is, honestly, man, just like let me go home and give me some slack.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Man, like if you're not here, like I can see you are not here today. It's like if you need to bounce, like just do that. There's no harm. You're not doing either one of us a favor by being here right now. So if you're here for my benefit, it's not working. So get your head clear, take your time, and do what you got to do. Right. No job is, and you might disagree here, but no job is so important that somebody needs to suffer through an 8-hour day that needs to feel like that and feel like they need to be there. Not in my world.
Do you think I disagree with that?
No, I don't. No. No, I certainly don't.
Oh man, I got some work to do.
Yeah, no, it's just the money thing, right? But the schedules and stuff. But I know you're not like that, and I just said that in jest. But
I think I try to be as intentional as possible.
Yep.
And my experience is like when people aren't on their A game, they're not on their A game.
No, yeah.
Right? Just because someone's physically present in a room doing something for 8 hours does not mean they're good at what they do.
they're not even on the job site. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And you know, it's one of my philosophies around like overtime. I don't want our guys working more than 8 hours. The best quality work you do is not in the last 2 hours of your day.
It is
It just isn't.
It is not.
Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe there's a time and a place where we're going to go out there and can match a schedule. We got an all hands on deck and you can work 15 hours.
Yep.
Right? I am also 100% aware that the last 7 hours of that, it is not equal to the first 7 hours. Right?
Yeah.
And so to try to develop that culture that does recognize the human being behind the body on the site, that just goes, yeah, I could have this guy be physically present here to make somebody happy because to a passerby, something's getting done.
Yeah.
But it's like, but that's not the company I want to run.
No.
Right? That's not the job site I want.
And your guys keep score of that, and they know it, and and that's when you start getting hurt feelings and disgruntled employees, and
Like, go home, man. What do you need to do to take care of yourself? Man, I got to go to bed.
right?
And do you know what, Dave? Here's a little secret. Do you know what? Sometimes I go home and I just go to bed.
Do you?
I have bad days too.
I wish.
Does that surprise you?
No. I can imagine the stress in some of your days.
Yeah.
I can imagine the stress I've caused you in some of your days. So, we're all human beings. And,
We're all humans, right? And you know, for somebody in your role, for somebody in my role, anybody in a leadership position, you have a bad day, and you're not feeling it.
Yep.
Maybe the best place for you to be is not on a job site correcting somebody's work.
Absolutely.
Fair statement.
I've dipped, around 2:00, man. I don't think I can take any more bad news today. And if I do have to take some more bad news, it's going to be bad for everybody. So this is all stuff we can talk about tomorrow. Reboot. Yeah, I don't sleep like you do, but go home and just not, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
No, it's and I'm glad to hear you mention that. I think that's something that I definitely didn't know when I was developing my leadership skills, when I was employing more people, when I was to me, I thought the best place for me to be was at work.
Yeah.
Head down, ass up, man. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you go to work, right? If it gets hard, just work harder.
Yeah. Suck it up, princess. Just get
Suck it up.
I don't care about your
Is it a
problems.
hard day? You fix it.
Yeah. What did you do to put yourself in that position?
And and then the stress starts building and building and building, and he's showing up every morning on time before everybody else. Gets harder and harder, and then all of a sudden I'm snapping at people, right? And creating frustration, and the consequences of not taking care of myself, not seeing those same things, right? Where you're like, hey, if it's gonna be bad for me, it's gonna be bad for everybody.
Right.
Like, go home.
Yeah.
I know the consequences of that. Like, whatever you're gonna accomplish in the next 2 hours will be easily eroded by whatever behavior you're gonna exhibit in the next 2 hours.
Yeah, and that is a lot of it. You're getting up behaviors on the job site, and it's a spiral. It just is not going to work.
And then having the courage, and as a leader, right, as a supervisor, to say is the best way for me to move this job forward is to let you go home.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a line that I love, and I just think it fits here. Addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
We will do more if you are just not here.
Yeah.
And not because you're bad, no judgment aside, but
Yep.
go home.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Come back tomorrow.
Right.
Right? And my experience when we do stuff like that with people, they come back better.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2 hours of swearing you're going to put in right now, we can fix up in an hour with a clear head in the morning.
Yeah. Good for you to come by that.
Yeah. And that's back to that mistake that I was mentioning earlier with a particular employee. I was not in a good place in my own life at the time. And he had kind of dealt with the same situation in his own personal life, and we just kind of run into each other that day, and it was awful. Again, so I'd love to call him up and just say, dude, I suck. I'm sorry, but
I'll definitely say in general, it's some of the hardest things to do is to, for me to have made mistakes that I know impacted people's lives. And, when their name comes up, I go,
yeah.
and to not be able to find sometimes the words, and it's just difficult.
It's one that will bug me for a really long time.
A couple, like kind of last few kind of fire questions. What is something that, like, as an industry, that like just isn't that great? That as an industry we can just do better.
Monday to Thursday, 10-hour shifts, 2-day weekends. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. It'll never happen, but that would be fantastic. Another thing I'd like to see is PTO.
Paid time off.
Yeah. I know we get holiday pay, right? But even possibly back to, I don't know, maybe not PTO, but like a sick day system, for guys that are having bad days.
Why is that important?
Well, for starters, guys come to work sick.
Yep.
Because they can't afford not to come to work.
Because if they don't come in, they don't get
Paid, and it doesn't matter if you're getting 10% vacation pay, you're spending that anyways, because who the hell saves 10% of their income, right?
We're already started.
But yeah, so I mean, that I think would be something that would be on another level than anybody else. It doesn't need to be, keep them honest.
How many sick days do you figure?
3 a year.
Really? No. Very specific number.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
What do you think of PTO?
Yeah, I did.
Didn't you have a list of softball questions somewhere?
No, guys.
Man, that's been on my list of. So, everything I do, like, first and foremost, my responsibility is to be a steward of the company's money.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, right?
That valid.
And then, so, as a first glance, what are my thoughts on paid time off? I think, as a human being, it is a great idea. Right?
Yes.
Then, okay, if I think it's a great idea, what am I willing to do about it?
Yeah.
What's an action item? And then I think about, is it an expense or is it an investment?
That's a tough one, yeah. Like,
So if it's an expense,
Yeah.
you know what my thoughts are?
no, thank you.
Nope.
Yeah.
Non-starter.
Yeah.
Let's, don't even talk about
Right.
it. So, but then I go, but I think it's important. So why do I think it's important?
Right.
Well, I think it's important because I do think it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Handled correctly, handled intentionally.
Yeah.
Right? And this gets back into conversations that, from our conversation, I can tell you don't want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But hey, do I want to give a guy paid time off so he can go get wasted, right, and show up late the next day? Nope. Non-starter.
Yeah. No.
Right? But is it my business, is it your business, how anybody of our employees use their personal time?
Right.
It is also not our business.
That's why it's very limited.
Yeah.
Right. Like I look back to not this Christmas, but last Christmas when I wiped out our entire commercial division because I came into work and literally we were all dying for 2 weeks. That would have been a great time for.
Well, and that's the difference, right? So I think sometimes the hardest part about running a company, sometimes the hardest part of being a supervisor, being an accountant, is that the only differentiator between an investment and an expense is extremely challenging, right? And so what's helpful is when you say, hey, John, I showed up to work that day because I could not afford to not show up to work that day. Because I showed up to work that day, 8 people got sick and didn't show up to work for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
And then you go, and then it's easy, right? So you go, okay, a day off, let's just call that easy math. I don't know, $350. Just easy math. Okay, so the expense is $350.
Right.
And now you weigh that against 8 people not being productive for 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the cost of that?
Yeah. It's
Right?
way more.
And you start seeing that. And so then this is where I think the hard work of managers really comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I can make sense of this.
Right.
I can make sense that paid time off and sick days can be an investment. I can also make a case that says it can absolutely be an expense that actually detracts from the company.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So
I definitely see both
numbers.
sides. Yeah. Yep.
So then that's the fun part, right? And how I would approach it, I go, you know what? As a group of people at Wheeler, at the company, like, let's talk about it. How would we unroll this platform that benefits you and Bray, right? It can't exclusively benefit me, and it can't exclusively benefit you. How do we do it?
It takes a giant leap of faith. Trust is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, trust.
Because there are like anything, any kind of government thing too. Like there's always people out there that will take advantage of it, and then there's hopefully we're hiring honest, people, and our culture is encouraging people to abide by the rules and don't be an idiot. But at the same time, I personally don't drink that much, but so I happen to go out for drinks one night, and then I'm 40, almost 50 years old.
So I have a question for you then. We'll go back. So you said 3 sick days. You have a number. Yeah, paid time off. How many paid time off days?
That's 3.
Also 3?
Oh, paid? No PTO. We got holiday pay, so if you can't manage your 10% to take your holidays, then you're on your own. I'm talking straight sick days.
Okay.
Said PTO, I didn't mean to. I meant sick days. Yeah.
That's fine. No, I thought about, what are your thoughts on banked vacation pay instead of paid beyond each check?
Love it.
Yeah?
I would way rather have banked. Yeah.
Do you think that's common? Do you think there are? No?
No.
Okay, no.
In my last 25 years, I worked one job that had
banked?
bank time.
Do you think field guys would prefer banked? Like as an industry, is this like a personal to Dave? He prefer banked, or is this like, are there more Daves out there?
I think there's more days out there.
Yeah.
Just especially with the way things are going, like in Canada alone, like everything's so expensive, right? Like just everybody's just getting their ass kicked, and it might encourage people to take time off more. So, taking time off is a great thing. It's 2 weeks off a year is fantastic, but with the paid out vacation pay, most people are just spending that. They're not saving it. They're not putting it away for vacation, so they can never afford to go on vacation. Where if that's getting banked, it's kind of like a little savings account, and you give them the option to withdraw it once a year. Either you're going to take 2 weeks off and withdraw it on your 2 weeks off, or you're going to get paid out once a year, so you're not carrying somebody's $10,000 bag, right?
Well, and like, man, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Right? Like, so would it surprise you to know that I'm having these conversations in the background with like Chelsea and Tommy? Like my accountant?
No, that would catch me off guard because like I said, I worked for one company that did that.
Because like the way I run the company is like how my dad ran it.
Mm-hmm.
And I manage my money well.
Yep.
So it was all fine by me.
Yeah.
Right? But I've really started to see the impact on people who spend their vacation money.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, how it's like first things first, like it is not my business how people spend their money.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I see the impact of people spending their money and having no money, not being saving for retirement, like nothing. And you go, oh my goodness, right? How could I help? What is there something that I could do? And the banked vacation time really came up. And then I thought, like, do I want to hold somebody's $10,000 bag?
Yeah.
And I will tell you for a fact, when we did not have effective accounting in our company, I couldn't even, yes, I wouldn't want 0% chance I want anybody's money in my bank account. And then so I brought that up to our accounting team. Yeah. And I said, is there a way to do this that I don't see this money? And I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
It's very critical that we... And they're like, John, of course there is, because they're accountants. And there's like, and plumbing's easy for us because we're plumbers, and accounting's easy for them. I pitch this problem, that's not even a problem. Like, there's like, I'm like, what? It's not a problem?
Yeah.
But, and it's a conversation that I would really like to bring up with staff and just see, like, because I think that could have a really powerful impact.
Yeah.
On people is just like that kind of forced savings account.
Yeah.
It's their money.
Yeah.
They can take it whenever they want.
Like, I'll tell you, like the guy with the company that I worked for that did do that, the guys were ecstatic about it.
Really?
Yeah. We had one guy bought a classic car with his vacation money. He didn't have to go on vacation, but he could have gone on vacation. He bought a classic car. And then his buddy does the same thing, right? And You know, they were just young kids, so they weren't too worried about vacations. But if I told my wife this, she'd freak out. Yeah. Like, holy crap, we go vacation every year, right? Yeah. So, I 100% think that there's a value to that.
But you know what? That's really cool. And I think what really appeals to me about that, Dave, is like that's something that, like, as an industry, like, companies can absolutely look at those things. And when you speak about the cost of 3 sick days,
Yeah.
right? That's not like, if you'd have said 12, right? I'd go, nah, that's insane. No, but 3, that's something I had not really aggressively considered. Like banked vacation, I will commit to you, I had 10 hours of meetings on that.
I would love to see that.
Right? Sick days, I've played with the idea in my head, but not really enough. And it'd be very interesting to explore that, especially in speaking with you, where you think, no, John, that could be an investment, not an expense.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, if you're taking anything from this conversation, is really looking at, like, what is the difference between an expense and an investment? Right? Mm-hmm. And the more areas that we're able to spend money, that gives money back.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, $1,500 to $5,000.
Right.
Man, if it's $1,500 to $1,500, great.
It's still good money, yeah.
That's good money, right? And then you get into, well, did it make a difference for that person?
Right.
Well, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Great, spend it again.
Yep.
Right, and I think that's, I really like those, Monday to Thursday, 10 hours.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for being able to be creative within a schedule.
Yeah.
And build that into a group. And I think what's really encouraging for me is that, like, to be a partner in, like, talking about, like, the structure of how that would work on a job. Like, how do you develop a job in a company that does that doesn't, like, practically speaking, you need 5 days of productivity.
Right. You need 40 hours of productivity.
So when you say it's like, this will never happen,
yeah,
it'll never happen because Friday's a work day, right? Like, it just is from a cultural standpoint.
Of course.
You go past the job site as an investor. Right. And you drive past a work site on a Friday and there's nobody on site.
Right.
As a non-starter.
No, and
interest is calculated basically by the minute, let alone the day.
I 100% agree with that. And it needs to be more than us to have that standard come.
But then, like, what I've always played with is, like, in my mind, because I've thought about this at length in my head. Well, what does it look like then to say, hey, in a company of 10, let's say, you know what? And all of a sudden we do run a Monday to Thursday, 10 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's like, hey, you guys get this. Actually, you guys get this Monday to Thursday. You guys get this Thursday to Friday.
Well, and
right? And that way there is that, like, there is the 4 10s.
Yeah.
But they don't impact the 5-day week.
And actually, I just kind of mentioned that. I was talking with Mike the other day and about out of town stuff, and you could split. 4 guys do Monday to Thursday, the other 4 guys do, Tuesday to Friday. Everybody's getting their 4-day weeks, and but a lot of jobs you can't do that on because if you only got 3 guys on a job site, it's kind of hard to split that up, right?
But then it gets into, like, the conversations that I'll pick on you that you don't want to have, right? Like, where you got to be able to articulate to the client why that's better.
Yeah.
Right? Because is it better? Mm-hmm. You think? Like, I think the client, it's in their best interest to run a split shift like that.
Yeah.
So do I.
Happy guys. Happy wife, happy life. Happy employees, happy company.
Yeah. More productivity.
Yeah.
Faster job.
Yeah.
And then it really ties back to the other part of the conversation. Just because there is a human being at that site does not inherently mean they are productive. No. Right? And I think that's something that if I were to want to change in our industry as a whole, it is this, like, well, there's a body. Get me a body.
Right.
Warm body syndrome, like I've heard the term.
Yep.
Right? Well, just put a body on site so it looks like something's happening.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But, like, let me be 2 days late so we can make it up at the end. Well, I need somebody there now. And I go, well, do you really? Yeah. And it is, like, having those harder conversations, right? Trying to build in and that mutual buy-in. And it is the hard work for yourself, for me, for managers, for supervisors across the board. Is like, well, like, how do we go slow to go fast? Right? How do we all have mutual buy-in? How do we assure that the client, the investors, that we respect their money, that we value, we respect the project, that this isn't done because we're lazy, right? It's done because we care. I want to send 4 guys who give a ton of shits about their project.
Right.
and they will on 410s.
Yeah.
Right? Because they get 3 days, they get to decompress, right? And the last 4 hours of that Friday is absolutely unproductive. Guaranteed. So now we're not talking, and most guys will say, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." Great. So now we're talking about 4 hours on a Friday.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Is that 4 hours on a Friday?
Yeah.
And then you can start to win guys over, and that's where I'd like to, spend more time with you, guys like you within the company. Well, how do we start having those bigger picture conversations with our staff and clients that it is in their long-term best interest? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to take more time than this for that answer.
Man.
But, yeah.
This has been a great conversation, Data. Thank you. You know what? Thanks for taking the risk and coming out. I appreciate. And my biggest hope is that anybody who's watching this, right, especially in their early years or now, just sees the value in savings and that confidence in like being in your mid to late 40s and just feeling like good that retirement will come in the future, and that's not something to dread.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you for that.
Yeah, 10% should be easy, right?
Yep. So good job, man. Okay. Good job. Right on.